just a second.
Yeah, take
All
your time.
right. Thank you for checking out a Sunday edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me, I'll follow you back. And I'm joined today with Ren Dax. And I know if you follow What the Buck or some of the other different outlets out there, you'll see some of his writing. Really good writer, high football IQ. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on with me as we talk about the keys to victory for this game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Minnesota Vikings. How are you doing, Ren?
Never better, Gene. Thanks so much for having me on. It's God, I can't believe it's already week 2. Well, week 3, but game 2 for us. Like, you waited for it and waited for it and waited for it, and now it seems like like we were all just in Tampa, watching that Chicago game, and man, it's like here we go, half hour away.
Yeah. So I wanted to jump in here real quick and get your keys to victory. And what does Tampa have to do to win this game?
I think it's really all going to depend on the offensive line. If they play above average, that and I'm calling average what they did against Chicago. If they play better than that, I think they can pretty much uh, cruise to a victory. Um, Donovan Smith is going to be big this game, and so is OJ Howard. Not necessarily in the passing game, but in the blocking game. This might be the toughest front four the Bucs face this year, as far as an opposing defensive line. Um, like I said, Donovan Smith's going to have his hands full with Griffin off the edge, and then on the other end, they got a guy that has 12 and a half sacks, so they're going to have to move Howard around. I think 6-on-4 is a lot better odds than 5-on-4. That's it for me. I think it's going to be the way the offensive line run blocks, but more importantly, protects Jameis.
Yeah. For me, execution is huge. They have to go out and execute. And on top of that, Dirk Cutter is going to have to call a good game. It's something that I have very high expectations for Dirk Cutter, based on what I've seen from him as an offensive coordinator, and last year as a head coach, getting this team to buy into his system and what he's trying to do. So I think it's going to be very important for Dirk Cutter to call a good game, and I think it's going to be even more important for the players to go out and execute and do what they need to do and play. And I know that's cliche when you say play within yourself, but focus on what you have to do and not worry about what your teammates are having to do. That really creates a sort of a balance as the game progresses, when you can focus on what you have to do and not worry about anybody else.
Do you have a problem with the way Dirk Cutter's called games in the
No,
past?
not at all. Not at all. All I'm
Okay,
saying is he's gotta call a good game. I mean,
gotcha.
he's a great coach, and I've never had any problems with anything he's done. Let me be clear on that. All I'm saying is he's got to call a good game.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, and that sort of goes right back to, what I sort of started with. It depends, if they have to go max protect, this could be, last year all over again. They had to run max protection a lot. But difference between this year, if they can only send out 3 guys, there's a difference between sending out, Mike Evans, Russell Shepard, and Adam Humphries than it is be able to send out Evans, Deshaun Jackson, and Adam Humphries, or / Chris Godwin, which I also think is going to play a big factor offensively. If they have 2 very good corners, obviously Xavier Rhodes. He didn't travel last week, but he might this week with Mike Evans, and then they have a young, fast, high drafted corner. That's probably going to shadow, in my opinion, Deshaun Jackson, and then that puts someone like Chris Godwin, who doesn't need necessarily to get this great separation because he's so good at contested balls. Look for Chris Godwin to have a big game. I mean, he could have had a big couple of splash plays. Both those passes that were thrown to him in the Chicago game were both in the end zone. One, it looked like he ran the wrong route, and the second one, he just get his head turned around, quick enough. So if him and James were on the same page, he could have had 2 touchdowns for Chicago.
Yeah, most definitely. And I guess for me, I think that Case Keenum, the fact that, and somebody mentioned it in the chat here, Case Keenum is overdue for a butt whooping. I just can't believe his record against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't see it this week. I see Tampa's defense doing what they need to do against him. And would you agree this is going to be a true benchmark of where Tampa Bay really is facing a legitimate defense like the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, this isn't going to be as easy as we saw in the third quarter against Chicago. We had those two long drives. It looks like we're going in, but Charles, Sims fumbled one, and then we started on our own 8. And when Peyton Barber, finally got into the game, they drove it, down the field pretty effortlessly.
Effortlessly.
There you go. There it is. Yeah, I'm not an English major. Uh, they ended up settling for a field goal, but those two. I think there's only 3 drives in that whole third quarter. They just really ate up the clock. This is going to be a different beast. This is going to be like sort of more the offense. You might have been. This is going to be up and down the field. It's going to be a struggle. This is a very good Minnesota Vikings defense. They are giving up a lot of yards on first down, oddly enough, like 7 yards. But when they get in the red zone, they're really clamping down. So and then on the defensive side of the ball, I'm with you with Case Keenum. This isn't the same defense. It looks like they picked up right where they left off after the Carolina game. After the mini bye we had where we got, they sort of got torched back to back with Oakland and Atlanta last year, and they came out, on fire. Uh, so I don't think it's the same defense. But then I would caution, but I'm with you on saying that Keenum's definitely in ready for a butt whooping. But we also thought that week 3 when the Rams came to town, you
Yeah.
know we really did. We thought the team was more Atlanta game week 1, not Arizona game week 2, and end up the defense ended up being definitely more Arizona week 2. But that's just something to throw out
Yeah.
there. I'm right there with you. I think Case Keenum's going to have a real tough day today on the Bucs
Yeah.
against the Bucs defense.
And that's with that being said, I kind of want to stay on offense a little bit. Dalvin Cook, how does Tampa's defense how do you defend against a guy like this? He's a special player. I'm not taking anything away from him. I've thought his measurables were incredible. In the combine and what he could do in the NFL, and he's pretty much done a great job since he's been in here. How does Tampa defend against the Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, he was a lot of people's number one back coming, going into the draft. He had some off-field issues that were never really talked about in the media or never really got out to the media. It was always just something like, oh, the people he hangs with, aren't really savory, things like that. So he had a very good game against a very poor defense week 1. The Saints. We all know about the Saints defense. Of course, we face them twice a year. And then he had a so-so game against the Steelers in week 2. He did have one run of over 20 yards, but I always sort of like to do this. I like to take sort of like your best play and your worst play and take it out, then average out what your yards per carry. He only had like 64 yards on 12 carries. He didn't get the ball a lot. But he does have 3 runs over 20 yards, and they're all when he sort of jab steps inside and bounces it outside. So the best way to stop Dalvin Cook, which I don't think he's really gonna be much of a problem. I think the Bucs defense is just too fast. Uh, but to prevent that 20-yard, 30-yard break off that he's had 3 of those, like I said, 3 of those so far, is just to stay outside. Make the defensive ends. If you're on his outside shoulder, most important thing is to turn him inside and let the flow of the defense come and get him as he tries to cut it up the field. Your job number 1 is that. Number 2 is make the tackle, but number 1 is do not let him get around you and get outside you. I think if they do that, I think Dalvin Cook will have a pretty pedestrian day.
Yeah. So would you say that we need the linebackers? The linebackers need to really play a solid game today. Who are Levante David, Kendall Beckwith, uh, Bond. Just the linebackers need to come in and do what they need to do. Do you think that's going to play a key part in shutting him down as well, or stopping him? I wouldn't say shutting him down, but slowing him down.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I will put our top to bottom our linebacking core against anybody in the league. You could make an argument for if Quan was playing today, you got Quan and Levante, and then put it up like one or two, someone else's best one or two, and you could sort of make an argument there. But I think definitely they're in top five in the NFL. But then when you throw in Beckwith, and then you throw in a Darius Glanton, and you brought up Bond, this is going to be his first time dressing for a regular season game in 2 years. I cannot wait to see this guy. If you go back and look at his JUCO tape, he played like 17 games in junior college and had like 22 sacks. Like he can rush the passer from the linebacker position. So I'm really excited to see that. But yeah, our linebackers, they're going to play a big part because of the style of Mike Smith's defense. The defensive tackles with those big bodies in there. Now McCoy's getting double teamed and Chris Baker's getting double teamed. I know he's not going to play, but we have. But that's the concept, and then that just allows our linebackers to run free and make plays, and they've got the speed, and they're excellent tacklers, superb, elite tacklers. Uh,
I like
and
that word.
tacklers,
Yes.
spectaculars, special tacklers. And we already talked about Darius Glanton,
Yeah.
and I've been high on him for a long time, and when he gets in, all he does is make plays. So yeah, to answer your question, finally, yeah, they're going to probably be the biggest key into keeping those explosive plays from Dalvin Cook happening.
All right. So are you comfortable, like when you look at the team right now, you're pretty comfortable with who they have? I know they've got a lot of people that are out with the flu and various injuries. So you would say that you're pretty comfortable with who Tampa has going in as long as they execute and do what they need to do to win this game.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if you've probably seen the injury report or the inactive list, I should say, but no Brent Grimes today.
Yes.
That was a huge shock to me when it came out. I was so upset. I mean, I didn't like yell and throw my phone, but I sort of stood up and took a little stroll through the house, like, okay, and I'm starting thinking through my head, like, how is this gonna go? How is this gonna work? It definitely knocks a little bit of your confidence down, but yeah, the Vikings receivers they're better than serviceable. They're good, but they're not, they're no Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson good. Let's put it that way. They'll catch the ball if you get it to them, but they sort of have to scheme to get open. Stephon Diggs is a flyer, but Ryan Smith, who is replacing Brent Grimes, is probably one of the top three fastest guys in the field. So I have no problem with him being able to stay with him, step for step. But technique wise, he did get a lot of playing time in the preseason because Grimes didn't play a lot. But we'll see. That's from defensively. That's what I'll be keeping my eye on. Vernon Hargraves and Ryan Smith. Those guys, they both were drafted last year, so very young starting corners coming into this game. But then on the flip side, once again, it's Case Keenum. So
Yeah.
uh,
There
yeah,
you
they're not.
go.
It's not. It's not. They're not facing Tom Brady. So I guess for Ryan Smith's first game, this is probably the best situation you could be in.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. Well, folks, we're getting close to game time. I just wanted to get on here and do a little bit of pregame hype. And Ren, thank you for coming on at short notice.
Yeah, anytime.
I'm going to try to do this every Sunday before the game and just a few minutes to just kind of talk about what the Bucs can possibly do. And what articles do you have coming up here shortly?
Sure. I just had two. I had one drop yesterday and one drop today. You can find them both at the Peter Plank. First, you can find me on Twitter at Rendaxt, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Bucks football. The first one was, a start, sit, and sleeper fantasy wise for the Buccaneers just came out yesterday. I'll go ahead and spoil it for you, so you don't have to click on it. I mean, the game does start in 12 minutes. I have Jameis. Because I think he's going to spread the ball around. It's really hard to be able to pick a receiver who's going to break out this week, especially after you saw how he did spread the ball around so much. I don't think the running games are really going to do that well against this Minnesota's defense. So basically, you had to take Jameis because there's kind of nobody else that was a surefire pick. Sleeper, or excuse me, sit OJ Howard because I think he's going to be blocking a lot more than he's going to be catching. I picked him like 3 targets for like 37 yards. A better game he had last week, but that's definitely not a fantasy player. And then the sleeper is Deshaun Jackson. They went to him deep 3, 4 times last week. If you hit on one of those, that changes your game from like, 3 catches for 50 yards. That changes to 4 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown in a blink of an eye. So if they can connect on one of those this week, Deshaun Jackson would be my sleeper. And then I have basically what we talked about today. One dropped early this morning for Peter Plank again. How to attack and defend the Minnesota Vikings, and that's basically what we went over. So, and you can also find me on Buck What You Heard when I sort of do bigger pieces.
What the book?
Uh, yeah. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I'm on Buck What You Heard. We What's your website? Yeah, I write for What the Buck. I'm sorry. When I do bigger pieces that are sort of not you know have to pertain to the opponent we're facing this week, or something I want to write a little bit longer about. A fun one I did was comparing this year's roster to the '98 Buccaneers roster. And I thought this year's roster was in the conversation, and it was fun to throw that together and put them head to head and see who actually won.
Yeah, that's something I'm definitely looking forward to reading then. Because again, that was the heyday. That was kind of the benchmark of a team putting a Buccaneers team together.
Mm-hmm.
That '98 team and them moving forward. So that's pretty much it for us. I just wanted, like, again, I wanted to get on here real quick and just go over a couple of pregame things and, just let everybody know. And again, I appreciate everybody that took time to check us out and enjoy the game. And I may get on here post game. Ren, I don't know what your schedule's like, but it is an away game, so you're not gonna be at Ray J. But I may see if we can get together for post game and talk a little bit about what we saw.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Just as long as it's not at 9 o'clock. As you know, I have a podcast with Brent Allen, the Pewtercast. Some of you may have heard of it.
Oh yeah,
And we
great
have
show.
our Instacast call-in show tonight at 9. We're on away games we can do it. Home games, Brent lives in Jacksonville, but he's in Tampa. But no, today we're both on our couch, nice and comfy. So 9 o'clock, we'll be doing our live call-in show. Any other time tonight, you contact me. I'm there for you.
All right. Hey guys, thanks a lot. Enjoy the game and go Bucs.
Go Bucks.
That's right.